What's up, you guys? This is Devin from Century Effects Studios, and we're back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about taming a white backdrop. Now, white backdrops are usually in high-key photography where there's nothing but white in the back and there's a model or a subject in front. And it's usually used in modeling and all the other stuff in that industry. You know, magazines and things of that nature. So what you have to do is when you're making a image like this, first thing you want to do is you want to get it in RAW. So I use it with my 7D. As you can see, my settings are 1/200th of a second at ISO 100 at f6.3. The reason I have it at 1/200th of a second, you want to get it as fast as you could possibly get it as far as exposure time is concerned, so your camera won't be shaking or there'll be as much sharpness out of your shutter speed, or you can prevent as much camera shake as possible, so you can get the sharpest image when it comes to holding the camera, because I'm hand holding this. And then you have ISO 100, minimal noise, as much possible noise as you can get out of that image as possible, you do it. And then you want to shoot it at f6.3. Now f6.3, granted, I would rather have shot this at f11, but I didn't have the flash power or the watt seconds to get my flashes to blaster with enough power to get it at f11, or f8, like most people like to shoot at. They think that's a sweet spot to get this much sharpness via the aperture opening. So I shot it at f6.3. It wasn't the best one, but it wasn't the worst one. So it gives me a decent amount of sharpness throughout the entire plane of the image itself. So first thing I look at is the histogram. Once I know that I capture my image correctly, when I look at that histogram, I want to see a decent amount clipping, not a whole bunch, but a decent amount clipping to know that this is a white backdrop, and you want this white backdrop burnt. So you need to see, and not necessarily burn as in photography burn, but you want it to be blasted with light. You want it to be radiating with just pure whiteness, and sometimes that's really hard to manufacture, since a lot of times when you're in the studio, you have studio strobes that are on the model, but you never stop to think about how many strobes you need to burn or dodge that background, so to speak, in photography terms. You want that whole thing blasted with light, but you don't have it to the point where you can get it even enough sometimes, or it's not powerful enough sometimes to get you that pure white backdrop that you want to look at. So sometimes Lightroom will prevent you from doing things, or Lightroom will actually allow you to do things when you don't have the budget to do it in real life, but you want to capture it as best as possible. So that means settings and everything like that have to be on lock. And then what you want to do is you want to turn on that clip warning in the right there on the upper right hand corner of the histogram. And what this will do is Lightroom will start to make little red marks around where it's no more, it's clipping, it's no more information, it's totally white, it's totally light bright. You can't make it any brighter than it is now because it's all white. So that's what Lightroom is telling you when you turn on that clip warning and you see that red around the image that you didn't capture, the artificial red. That's Lightroom telling you where the brightest brights are. So with that being said, once you do that, you get a decent amount of that all around the white image, and you pretty much got what you need. Now, me personally, what I'll do is I'll make it as white as possible to get a majority of the backdrop white, and then I'll start to take a brush and brush the highlights down. So I'll get a brush in Lightroom, I'll get the highlights slider, and I'll bring that slider down, and so I will retain some information on my subject, because my subject does have some white tones and some bright tones that I don't want to be burnt with the background, or not necessarily burnt, but dodged too much with the background. The reason I say burnt is not necessarily photography burn. I'm talking about actually overdoing the actual effect. So with that being said, you don't want your subject being overexposed with the background being purposefully overexposed, because you want your subject to have as much life and as much dynamic range as you possibly can without being overexposed, or he possibly can without being overexposed. So with that being said, that's pretty much it. You check your white balance. You make sure you have your white balance. Since you have now a whole bunch of white tones, you can click, or you can find something that's supposed to be pure white, and you can calibrate your white balance off of that pure whiteness. And then once you find that, once it looks to be pretty good, then you got it. Now you can go clean up the model separate from the backdrop. Remember, separate from the backdrop. You don't want to do too many things to the backdrop at the same time you do it to the model, because that ruins the effect. You want to have local adjustments and not global adjustments. Now then I take this image further, then I'll do some sharpening of the skin, and then texturizing and doing all that other fancy stuff. But that's not what we're here today. We're just here to learn about how you can tame a white backdrop that you've already captured in real life and help polish it in Lightroom. Because some people don't even have the money for Photoshop. And Photoshop is a lot harder and it takes a lot longer, but if you can do it in Lightroom, and a lot of people like doing it in the camera anyway, but if you can spend just a few minutes in Lightroom and you've gotten it all right in the camera, then you should be good to go. So this is Devin from Century FX Studios, and I'm out. Now you're just gonna watch me. All the rest of this video is just basically about me finishing up the image. So with that being said, guys, thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, comment, and stay tuned for the next video.